We're keeping our focus on this seemingly unending matter unfolding as the day go by. Well, we've got Dr. Yakubu Fise here with us. He is an international law expert, consult severally on international matters. Good to see you again, Dr. Fise.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
This particular matter, well, now that evacuation, 640 of them, as we did here, right. They're going to come back to the country, I think 2 flights by air peace. And so just unraveling, what's your impression of how this is unfolding?
It's quite interesting for us to get to this stage at this time, as a nation, as a country, to be pursued, I can say in courts, out of a brotherly or a sister nation. It is quite interesting. It's sad at the same time, but then I think it gives us a moment for really deep thinking. First and foremost, we need to ask ourselves, where did we get it wrong? At what point that Nigerians will be pursued out of African countries? We need to ask ourselves this question.
But this is not just Nigeria. Foreigners are targeted, so including Nigerians. So when you say, where did we get it wrong? How does that fit into the picture?
Yeah, well, now let's deal with our case. I see that we must kind of embark on an individual approach assessment. Other African countries have their own situations. Nigeria must look at itself as a nation. That's the approach I want to embark on. It affects a lot of countries. A lot of nations are involved in this. Sudanese, Ethiopians, and all other nationals are there. But then we, as a nation, we have to ask ourselves. We have to ask ourselves. That is how I look at it. It's interesting and quite well that the president is taking this approach to evacuate the nationals. Good. I accept that. Because if you get to a nation and people say they don't like you there, you need to leave. You need to leave. The earlier you leave, the better. But then we're still going to have a situation where many will not want to come. That's okay. After all, everybody went there based on his own...
No, but that's natural, because those who may not be able to evacuate within this short space of time.
That's right.
Do you think that for those who have decided to leave, having evacuated when the evacuation is done, these first 2 trips, is that going to put some sort of spotlight or endanger other nationals, I mean other foreigners who will be there, who their nationals may have been evacuated, for them to ask?
Well, definitely that's going to pose a danger for those who will still be left behind.
How do we relate to that?
But you cannot force anybody to leave a dangerous zone. The government is making an attempt to evacuate because we love the Nigerians who are there. But if somebody tells you, I'm not ready to go, you can't force him out.
Let me try this. Now, if, quote unquote, if they are asking those who are coming there to take their jobs, those who mainly have shops, by the way,
That's right.
predominantly.
That's
now,
right.
if those group of people, a lot of them are to be evacuated, and then you have maybe other professionals in several other fields, maybe in the robotics and the medical field, several other professional fields who will remain, will there be any reason for them to be targeted? And if they do, how do we respond to that?
Now, if we look deep into the content of what is happening, you will see that the experts, lecturers, our colleagues who are in various universities, really for now are not real targets. Now, you look at who are they really looking at? There's a kind of trait that is experienced by the lower class that is going out now attacking people. You can call it envy towards those who are into buying and selling, petty buying and selling. Now, why should that be the case? I want to believe that the lower class in South Africa is threatened, seems to be threatened. Their perception. And we have to kind of step into their shoes and understand this. It's psychological. The space is getting narrower and narrower. Nigerians are excellent in so many ways, both good and perhaps bad. Whichever way you look at it, the low-class South African sees the traders as threats. Now, when you're talking about experts, even Western world, they accept the fact that some of our guys are good. No matter how they hate you, no matter how they envy you, they can't push you out because there's no replacement. For now.
Okay. I'm wondering why that is the case. Because it's in the same environment where these people are threatened that the Nigerians or the foreign nationals are thriving. So what stops them from doing the same thing that these foreign nationals, so-called foreign nationals, are doing that is threatening them rather than them also getting into the fray?
Envy is a terrible thing. Sometimes you hate someone not because you are able to do what he's doing, but it comes as a result of the fact that, one, you are not able to do what he's doing. Two, he's taken over your position. Now, the best thing is to learn. But we see at this time, we're not talking about learning. We can appreciate what Chinese guys are doing here. We can copy them. But in most cases, a lot of people only rubbish what they have done and say it is not good. It's not of a high quality.
I'm sure you are aware of the history of all of this, in South Africa. Some have, from some conversation we had yesterday, some even date it as far back as 1994 when apartheid ended in that country. Now, one would have expected that over the years there would have been some form of national orientation for the people that, that would have helped them to transit, from where they were to where they ought to be now. Some say that political power was handed over to the nation, but economic power wasn't handed over. And maybe that is why, there's that level of envy that you're talking about now, occasioned by whatever else. How do you react to that?
That is a factor that must be considered. Now, we're having a similar situation here. When you look into what is happening in South Africa, you have to look back home. Since from independence till this day, what efforts have we made as a nation, as a state, to be able to prepare our people to take over? Now, a lot of things we go to do in South Africa, we ought to have been doing them right here at home. I was speaking with a research candidate in one of the Southwest universities, and he told me he's about to finish, but that certain reagents that he needs for his research must be procured from South Africa. Well, and I was asking myself, I said, for how many years we've been independent? With all our research institutions and everything?
Well, some will also argue, Doc, that, no matter how developed the nation is, there will also be those who want to go out of the nation.
Oh, definitely.
Americans still leave their nation.
Yeah, that's right.
British still leave their nation.
It's inherent in us as human beings. Yeah. We aspire to do better and get better. And besides, whether we have everything good here, people will still be motivated to go out. The Latin man has a saying, he says, ubi bene, ibi patria. Wherever is good, that is my home. We're human beings.
Okay.
We're human beings.
Just juxtapose these two, sir. On the one hand, 640 Nigerians are willing to return home now. The president wants everyone to come back home as much as possible. Those who are willing. There are about 800,000 Nigerians in South Africa, according to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Now, he has also said that for now, Nigeria is not cutting diplomatic ties with South Africa. But as many Nigerians as want to come home are welcome to come home. How do you juxtapose this? We're not cutting diplomatic ties, but Nigerians should return home.
Now, it's an emotional issue. when you're talking about diplomatic relationship, it's much more than what we see happening in South Africa. There are issues that the public does not really understand. There are so many things, very significant things that happen between governments that the public wouldn't understand. And so to talk about cutting diplomatic relationship, I think it is premature, quite premature. Why? Because South Africa and Nigeria have been on this road for some time. We're signatories to so many multilateral and bilateral agreements that really are helping these two economies to work fine.
Now, does that supersede
supersedes
taking people's lives?
No.
Taking laws into their hands,
no, not at all. Not at all. But what I'm saying is, governments are making efforts to solve this problem, and they will actually be solved. But if we rush in to say, because of this, we cut off diplomatic relationship, I think that will be premature.
Do you think that should...
Lives have been lost,
yeah, but do you think that should feature at any point in time? Because, for instance, if, as you highlighted too,
yes,
if this evacuation is done, and you have the professionals who are left there, and then they are attacked, because if they are there, it means we assume that they got in there legitimately.
Yeah, that's right.
They got in there legitimately, so they won't be illegal immigrants. Yeah. They're not the ones that say they're accused of taking their jobs. If those groups of people are attacked, how should we react?
Now, if this continues, there are two principles that guide the responsibilities of states internationally. Now, first and foremost, we must identify that these acts are attributable to the government. For now...
Which government? South African government?
To South African government. For now, I don't think there are any acts that we can say these attacks are attributable directly to the government. So far, no. Now, in terms of internationally wrongful acts, I don't want to believe that these competitors that went to South Africa went there to trade on the basis of some agreements that we had with South Africa. People migrated, people went to live their lives. But the other aspect is, to lead us to what you're saying, there are experts who went there based on certain agreements with either government agencies in South Africa or NGOs and some other corporate bodies that agree to do certain things. If such persons are targeted, we know that they're genuinely, if they are targeted and the South African government does not seem to be doing anything, that takes us to a next level that we need to discuss as to whether we can sever relationship or reduce certain commitments.
But many people also say that in a way the South African government is culpable because they haven't made a strong enough statements to deter their people.
It's dealing with governments, we have to understand South Africa is a sovereign nation, Nigeria is a sovereign nation.
Yes,
They're two equals.
I understand that, but I'm saying...
Each country has its own ways of coming out to prevent an act which is wrongful or undesirable acts. They have made certain statements. I'm not holding brief for the South African government, but I think from the statements of the police officers, from the statements of some of their ministers and the rest, we're able to understand that they condemn this. It's the tone that Nigerians are concerned. Perhaps they come out and say, stop this, we go out of this and do this and do this. You might not have that right now. Some are calling for compensation. Some are calling for apologies.
Nigeria is calling for compensation. What do you think of that?
Nigerians are calling for compensation. Now, again, I said, except we're able to identify, attribute this act directly to the South African government, you can't be calling for South African government to pay compensation.
We're not just the only ones, though, because in some of the reports there, the other nationals whose businesses were vandalized also said they needed to be compensated. Isn't that natural?
It is. It is natural. There are ways of doing this. There's a moral aspect of it. Now, for you to qualify for compensation, you will have to stipulate that your businesses are registered, they're genuine, I had the chairperson of the Diaspora Commission asking for compensation. That's our duty to ask anyway. That's our duty. But I was rather thinking that instead of saying for compensation for businesses that were destroyed, businesses, genuine businesses that were destroyed, I think if we put that word there, that clarifies it. Then we should now be asking questions. And this should guide us in the future. Nigerians going out to do businesses must make sure that we are properly rooted in the system. MTN is working here within the framework of established legislations, and so can call for compensation in case their interest in one form or the other seem to be jeopardized. So, but when we deal with petty traders, shop owners, restaurants that probably are not even registered, compensating, you can't quantify that.
But
like I said, there's a moral aspect to it. The South African government can, on its own, in order to build trust, begin to get statistics, get to know who and who were really affected, and make some attempts to court the friendship of these countries whose citizens were affected, and begin to make some attempts morally to see how we can rehabilitate this.
But you know, this,
I think that's a way.
This also has huge implications, because if you look at those who hit the streets, they didn't need any leader, they didn't need any rallying points. It was spontaneous, because I think one of the ladies who the brother was, I think that she said brother was killed in South Africa, just got to one of those shops and then just lost it. And before you knew what was happening, it spread across the country, and so people just thought, no, you can't just keep doing this. Yeah. So
that's, you're talking of the Nigerian situation now.
Yes, the reprisals in Nigeria.
Yes, that's right.
Because how do you control that kind of scenario? Because isn't this going to damage relations between Nigerian, the citizens here, and maybe their South African compatriots? Because if they, how do you get this off your mind? Because look, no matter how governments respond at that level, what about at this other level?
It is painful. Like I said, I witnessed some of the protests on the highways and the writings and all this. It is quite painful. Imagine a scenario where parents spend so much money, borrow so much money, you know, to help somebody go there thinking he's going to make some money and then come back home or help them out. And then suddenly you hear he's killed, his business is destroyed. It's painful. It's painful. But two wrongs don't make a right.
Some have also argued that maybe the communication to Nigerians about the ownership of these businesses, so to speak, you know, is also something that should give some bit of concern. You know, some say that many of these organizations have already been Nigerianized, so to speak. How do you react to that?
The organizations over there?
No, the ones here, you know,
yes,
in Nigeria.
Well, it's quite good that we've been able to become part of these businesses. That is good. That takes me again to another point, which I want us as Nigerians to consider. Now, we must make concrete efforts to be able to export investors outside. What we do is we do not train or equip our corporations, our entrepreneurs to go out and be investors outside that will be recognized by the legislations of those countries as full-fledged businesses. Now, ask me, do we have the equals of the MTN in South Africa or in other African countries? We do not have.
But, you know,
we do not have.
Those who've also looked at the way African Union has responded to this. Many are not satisfied with that. They wonder the role, if they had done satisfactorily in responding to this, because they say, look, it could snowball into affecting major cohesion in terms of Africa doing business, the economics of Africa. Do you share the same view?
Now, that is why we have been insisting that the African Free Trade Agreement be really facilitated. If we have such a framework under the auspices of the African Union, then we will then it becomes easier for the larger umbrella to be able to criticize and pick out faults in some of these behaviors.
Okay.
But as it is today, the African Union might not be able to do much more than this.
My colleague Kaide, he's got a question for you.
Yeah. Right. Now we're talking about the reaction of the AU and other African countries that are involved. I'd like to focus on what Nigeria has done so far. I remember the Minister of Foreign Affairs saying that the country, that's Nigeria, will take a moral high ground. And a lot of people were wondering, what does this mean? So in international relations, international law, what does this mean, moral high ground, and how will this affect the outcome of this this diplomatic issue?
Yeah. Whether we like it or not, Nigeria is a factor to be reckoned with in the African context. As such, every action that Nigeria will take has to reflect that moral high standard. Nigeria is a leading factor, is a leading country in the African context, and we must appreciate this fact. It takes a lot of sacrifice to be a leader, and this is the time when we have to show that leadership.
Now, speaking about showing that leadership,
yes,
even if we were not going to cut ties, should we have mentioned it now?
Oh, definitely. Nigeria needs to categorically make it clear to all the African countries that this is what we can take and this is what we will not want to take.
But if there are those who think that having mentioned that we're not going to cut ties, yes, suggests to them that so you evacuate Nigerians from South Africa, you're not going to cut ties. What next? Doesn't that give them fuel that yes, they can go ahead, maybe attack one or two other persons? They know we're not going to cut ties.
This perhaps is the first time ever since we've been having this crisis in South Africa that the federal government is taking a step to evacuate. In most cases, we have tolerated this and perhaps slept over them, but this is a giant stride forward. The fact that we're evacuating morally speaks volumes. It tells the South African government that Nigeria is ready to act. It's part of it. We're ready to save the lives of our people. We're ready to move those who want to move back home. But those who want to remain there, our eyes are going to be on the behavior of the South African.
In conclusion, do you think South Africa government has handled this properly in terms of calling out the authorities to arrest people and ensure that people behave themselves?
We hear there are numbers of persons that have been arrested. We hear so.
But we still have outstanding questions.
We still have outstanding questions.
Who was killed
and here in
a
Nigeria,
5-star hotel.
We have also shown, this is part of the step that the federal government is taking by arresting those Nigerians who, though, sadly, I mean, it pained us, but we went out to do this. Many are arrested. Many are arrested. So I think the South African government needs to do much more than just doing this.
All right.
We need to be more proactive, I think so.
Dr. Yakubu Fise, international law expert, thank you for your thoughts this morning.
Thank you, sir.